This summer, millions of Americans are experiencing firsthand the effects of climate change. Triple-digit temperatures for days on end, smoke from record-setting wildfires fouling the air, warming oceans, bleaching coral reefs. Opinion polls find growing concern about climate change. Psychologists say that can be a positive thing, spurring people to action. But for some people, it becomes an overwhelming sense of despair or anxiety. Psychologists call it climate anxiety. This week, we asked people about their emotional responses to climate change.
I would say that climate change has affected my mental health in that it has certainly increased my anxiety.
I feel very anxious about the state of the climate and our future. I believe that if we don't make necessary changes now, we will be changed in the future in ways that we do not want and cannot control and will not be able to mitigate.
We're really not seemingly taking seriously enough the effort to make changes to mitigate the worst impacts of climate change. That to me is just, it's sad and horrific in a way that I can't fully comprehend.
I'm worried because this is all we have right now. We talk about going to the moon and Mars, but this is what we have. I think I'm more worried maybe than anxious at this point.
Climate anxiety affects my daily life by the decisions I make about when I want to go someplace or where I want to go, or more particularly, how I want to travel.
My climate anxiety does affect my daily life, again, because I'm living in a city that reaches 117 degrees, and I watch the birds outside struggling in the heat.
The moment when I realized that the climate change crisis was causing anxiety in my life was the day when the sky in the San Francisco Bay Area was orange. That is not the color of the sky, and that had a profound and deep effect on me because it so clearly showed that the danger was real.
I don't want to sound all kind of doomsday bunker ready to go, but like, it's a thing I think about looking at ways to move out. What areas will be most impacted by coastal flooding? It's a lot of anxiety that I really don't have an outlet for.
I think it was when I started to have a panic attack, literally just chopping vegetables for dinner one day. And it was because I was sitting there ruminating on some terrifying headline that I had seen that day. It was a full-on panic attack with like the not being able to breathe and the, just kind of general shaky feeling. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm just trying to make dinner here.
The voices of Americans and how climate change is affecting their feelings. Leslie Davenport is a climate psychology therapist. She teaches at the California Institute of Integral Studies and is author of Emotional Resiliency in the Era of Climate Change. Leslie, when does healthy concern about the planet, about climate change, become this sort of climate anxiety?
Well, from the emerging field of climate psychology, one thing that's really important to understand is we view distress, upset, sadness, grief, anger about climate change to be a really reasonable, even healthy reaction. Because it's built into us as people that if we feel risks, threats, experience losses, there's going to be upset. So it's really important to acknowledge that if you're feeling that on any level of intensity, it really means you're paying attention, you care, you're empathetic to what's happening to our world.
But when does it become a problem? When does it become something that people feel they should go talk to someone about?
Well, it can certainly grow into something that interferes with functioning in daily life, keeps you awake at night, gets in the way of enjoying life, and becomes really the predominant concern. High levels of physiological distress, racing hearts, intrusive thoughts. It can take many, many forms.
You have a private practice in the Pacific Northwest and in California. Are you seeing more people coming to you talking about this?
I sure do, and I sure have. I'd say there's been a big leap in the last 5 years. And there are three groups I see the most. One are people working in this field, frontline workers, scientists who are studying this and recognizing what a dangerous trajectory we're on. Two are people who've been touched very directly with big losses, lost their home in the fires in Santa Rosa a couple years ago, have had to decide if they want to still live in a fire-prone area. And there's a very high level of distress among children and youth. This is a time when they naturally glance into their future, deciding where they want to live, what they want to do, young adults if they want to start a family, and they're quite upset about the prospects of what their future may entail.
This isn't like fear of flying. You're not trying to resolve an anxiety. So what do you do? How do you treat this?
Well, there are several approaches. Two main areas. One is there are lots of tools for processing complex feelings, learning how to calm our nervous system, not getting stuck in obsessive thinking, taking media breaks when necessary. And so that's a big part of it. But also, we really encourage people to find their own way of becoming part of the solution. How can each person contribute in some way to creating a healthier, safer world? Not only is that something that we all need, but it's empowering to not feel as victimized by what's happening.
This is not something new. You say you've been working on this for, I think, 20 years or so. Is the medical community, is the mental health community aware enough about this and equipped to handle it?
It's a growing awareness, but we have a long way to go. At this point, none of the mental health field, psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, MDs, are required to have training in the mental health impacts of climate change and how to work with it effectively. And so to that extent, if a person's seeking support, they may or may not end up with a clinician who is equipped and tuned into what's needed. I'm confident that will change. There are workshops and programs popping up here and there, but it hasn't yet become part of the mainstream training and approach.
If there are people watching us now who are worried about climate change, but it hasn't quite reached the stage of being something that really affects their lives, their day-to-day functioning, what would you tell them about how to avoid that, how to prevent that from happening?
Talk about it. Talk about it to other people who are like-minded, receptive. I feel that way too, so that it's not as isolating. If it's hard to find that, there are a lot of what are called climate cafes or climate circles that can be found by an easy online search, where people just get together, often online remotely, and just say what they're feeling, what they're experiencing, what people have found helpful.
If someone thinks they have sort of almost crippling climate anxiety, how do they find someone who can help them?
I would really recommend what's being called the Climate Aware Therapist Directory. Since this training, again, is not built in yet to the mental health field, there are some therapists who have chosen to have this as a specialization.
Climate psychology therapist Leslie Davenport, thank you very much.
Thank you.